Welcome to episode 2 of the AdQuick Madvertising Podcast with Chris and Adam, where we sit down with industry leaders and subject matter experts to discuss the hottest topics at the intersection of media, marketing, advertising, and technology. I'm Chris Gadek, and as always, I'm joined by my friend and teammate, Adam Singer. Our guest today...
In that order, friend and then teammate.
Friend, yeah, exactly, yeah. Our guest today is none other than Trung Phan, at Trung T Phan on Twitter. He's one of our favorite personalities on the internet, but I'm actually going to let Adam introduce Trung because they go way back, and it just makes a lot more sense.
In Twitter years, it's like dog years, right? If you knew him on Twitter for a year, it's like a decade.
So Trung has been, I think I'm Trung's favorite reply guy on Twitter. I've been a friend and fan of his for as long as I was lucky enough to stumble upon him online. He is one of the more interesting people on the internet. And so I'm super excited that he is guest 2 on our podcast. I know it's a bold statement because the internet.
You guys are gassing me up quite a bit. First of all, I'm not a subject matter expert. I just want to establish that about anything. And there are way more interesting people. I think what Adam is trying to get to is Adam has a very certain internet aesthetic. You've been around the game. You know a lot of people, especially in kind of tech, Twitter, tech, social. And I think we gravitate towards each other because we don't take it too seriously.
That's right. And it's interesting you mentioned too seriously or not. I think a lot of people that get really bent out of shape online are either like Zoomers super young or Boomers super old. And we sort of grew up in this time when like we started online and forums kind of weren't taken seriously. People were like, what's AOL? What's MySpace? What's Facebook? And then all of a sudden we like shifted from the kind of having fun shit posting online to the toppling of empires. It sort of happened kind of quickly. So but anyway, we have a lot of topics we want to talk about with Trung. We want to talk about things that are interesting for startup founders, for marketers, and for SMP marketers. And so I'll just dive right in. Trung, my intro, when I wrote an intro about you, I wrote, you are a meme lord, an op-ed columnist, a podcaster, and overall awesome internet persona. So can we just start with meme lord? Trung, you've cracked the formula of what makes an interesting meme online. And I know I can't ask you how to tell people to be interesting, but how have you done so well at just being consistently able to stand out in social and, be this like sort of voice that everyone goes to?
So I just want to, the first thing I'd say is there's obviously so many good like Twitter meme accounts. And I think the one thing that I wouldn't say separates, but like the one thing I do try to do different is I use memes as a form of, it's why I want to be on Twitter. I just want to fucking make jokes. Like that's just the reality. Like it's this thing that gets me excited. And I know that you specifically, we've talked about this, you get really kind of lit up when people are just dropping these like low effort threads because it's bait. It gets followers, right? But the only reason I do threads ever is so I can get more people looking at my dumb memes. And to answer your specific question of like, how do I think about it? And like, why does it seem like the quote unquote able to break through is, I mean, it is a little bit formulaic in the sense of you can't necessarily teach somebody to be funny, but you can learn how to tweet and be on top of the quote unquote cycle. Is you do have to be on top of the news cycle. You have to know that there's a main character every day. It's not necessarily healthy, but listen, if you're a social manager anyways, or your team has one, they should be on top of that. Twitter Blue actually has a really good feature. The product was formerly called Nuzzle, but if you go now, it's called like top articles. And it's like, it basically tells you in your network what are the 10 to 15 top stories, not like the trending tab, which can be a disaster sometimes, but like literally it's like, what are the 10 to 15 top stories that people in your network are talking about? And then you just kind of have to jump on with a quote unquote meme. And this is actually something, because sounds like there's some more serious listeners here. The tactical thing is download Mematic, which is like the meme making app, and go to Img Flip. Everybody knows that website, because those two places have all the templates, and you just have to basically quote unquote train yourself on those templates by literally looking at like 1 or 2 minutes a day, being like, oh, this meme template is a representation of like anger, or this one is a representation of FOMO. And then over time, you just build all these templates. And as soon as a news story hits, you just like pulling in a library of your head that you have built over. So I think that's like literally that's what's happened is like now I'm very, very quick for if something happens, will have the template in my head. I mean, like our friend Ramp is like a legend in this game, right? He's been doing it for much longer than me, but he's super quick and things. I imagine it's similar because he's built up this library.
Totally. And so along lines of, say you're someone, you work at a startup or a brand, you learn how to meme, you learn how to get attention online, whether it's creating the news of the day or just commenting on it. Can you talk a little bit about, so I'm someone in those shoes, what do I do once I actually like get attention and I am consistent at building a following and engagement? Like, are there certain ways that you've seen work best to translate that to subscribers, to purchases of your e-commerce store, to signups for your SaaS offer? Like, get me from making funny memes to business.
Right. So I think the one thing I would say is I'd be very careful with only being funny. And our friend Doug Boneparth actually talked about this. He was on the Not Investment Advice podcast at the end of last year. And he actually told me before COVID, he had written a lot, right? Read every week for 3 years, financial wealth, money management tips. And then during COVID, he kind of went all in on just being a jokester online, built a big audience, 250,000. But he told me after 2 years, he's like, he felt he kind of pigeonholed himself a bit because it is a little bit difficult. It's difficult in two ways, transitioning from just being a meme funny person back in a semi-serious, trying to acquire customers or give them actually something that's valuable or a product that you're selling that would be useful for them. It's twofold. The first side is like mentally, you go viral doing these memes and these quick jokes, right? And it's very difficult if you are kind of quote unquote addicted to that dopamine of going viral and then trying to post like a serious article that gets 5% of the engagement that you might on a meme, right? And this is literally, I talked to a lot of people that do this and they have problems with doing that because you're so addicted to throwing out and putting up quote unquote bangers that when you post something that is actually more long form and valuable and you've actually put a lot of effort in, say an article, well, Twitter throttles links, first of all, and secondarily, you're just not going to get the same engagement. So it's just like physiologically is not going to be as satisfying posting it. So that's the one side of why it's difficult if you pigeonhole yourself. The other side is you're conditioning your audience to only expect one thing. So what I would say, like tactically, is try to have a balance, like try to barbell it. And the way I say, what I mean by barbell is this, is you should be doing stuff like, if you're going to do a thread, like make it actually a good thread, like a high effort thread, or write a high effort article, right? And that barbells your kind of like memeing and these quick one-off hitters. And then people will kind of get used to that mix. And just over time, you kind of just shake the box and filter out the people that will actually enjoy your long form stuff. But I mean, you've probably heard this before. I'm sure you've talked about it. It's like the memes are top of funnel, right? They cast a really wide net, and then you're just kind of shaking the box to see who comes to the bottom. I guess the actual analogy here is a funnel, but you know what I mean.
Totally. I think you hit on something like pretty interesting there. So, hey, I'm going to do these things for attention, get everyone's attention, build, I guess, that trust over time. I've seen this name, this company enough time, and now I'm going to give them something serious to make a purchase. I think companies are instinctively good at the attention thing through products like ours at AdQuick. We let companies basically just buy billboard ads, a lot easier and measure them. And like billboard ads, TV, cable ads, even social media ads, I think marketers are generally pretty good at. Like they know what to do. But I think we sort of dove in here, and everything you're talking about, I think is a little bit different of a kind of marketing, because it's not just paying for the space and attention. We're talking about the organic parts of the internet where you have to either earn that attention, or I hate this word, but people feel like they have to hack their way into that attention.
I mean, you're effectively hacking your way into becoming a publisher, right? And maybe you could kind of continue along that.
Absolutely. It's yeah, I mean, it's if you can do social well, it's free distribution, right? I mean, it's a cost of your time. But I know, for example, I have a startup, Bearly.ai, AI-powered research app. I've done $0 of marketing spend because I don't need to. I do a dumb tweet and then I just plug my app underneath, right? And I look at I'll just look at some of the metrics, but I can get like I can get 500 clicks right now if I wanted to, because I know I have some banger memes just sitting in my folder, and just the nature of Twitter and what goes underneath. It's not I'm not saying it's like a panacea and it's perfect, but the other words that you're talking about, words you hate, if you would hate the word hack, you probably also hate the word owned media, right? Like owned media. But I mean, like there's a reason why all these companies started buying newsletters. Everybody's launching a newsletter, and not to say that they're all working, but if you own that asset, it's way better than a marketing campaign that's basically useless in a week, right?
Yeah, I don't hate the word like rent, owned, earned. I think those are good terms. I don't like hack and guru
Okay.
and ninja so much. No, and it's interesting because you're super interesting in this iconoclast voice online, so you can have that upper funnel attention. And I think, but I do think like one mistake a lot of startups make is saying, oh, Elon doesn't buy ads, so I'm not going to buy ads. Like that, ads could be a great thing for you.
People should definitely buy ads, right?
Yeah.
Like you can. What I'm saying is that there is an avenue where you can be very, very low cost in terms of monetary, right? Again, there's going to be a time cost. So like, it's not to say that this is like quote unquote free, but, and it's not even owned, right? Like I'm on Twitter, like that could be rugged tomorrow. But like, it goes back to an earlier question you had, is like, what's the point of having those attention, right? So, I mean, everybody here will probably have seen it. It's like something viral. Second tweet is a plug for an own asset, podcast, newsletter, or your product, right? It's a pretty standard move. Unfortunately, that's the best way to do it on Twitter. I think they got rid of Review, which was the newsletter that they acquired, but the Review had a really good feature, which is like, it's an integrated button where the email connected to your Twitter, you just one clicked and you got that email, right? So even that tiny friction converted like crazy. They should add that I know that Elon's pushing the Twitter Blue subscription. I'm subscribed to it mostly because I really like the top articles feature, and I've gotten so much personal value out of Twitter that I actually just want to give the company money. But I think that tool would be super effective to something you asked before. Is like, what's the point of getting those attention? It's like, can Twitter or any of these platforms make it much? Instagram only makes it really easy, right? You can shop right on the platform. But I'd say, yeah, listen, you can do, if you're a corporate brand, it's worthwhile, obviously try it, and everyone does try. But I would my quote unquote advice would be like, listen, barbell it. Don't get stuck being just a joke individual, because it's a bit jarring when you get a bit more serious. So there's got to be a balance there. That's kind of how I'd frame it.
Awesome. And so, Chris, I think that actually leads into some of the questions you wanted to ask about brand stories that Trung had shared.
I think before we jump into brand stories, I think there's one more thing that I wanted to ask Trung, which is like, there are playbooks and formulas to go viral. Obviously, not all of them are great content. I think you've mentioned this in your non-investment advice podcast. What are some formats that people use regularly that you think are just played out and kind of could be retired right around now? Some of the ones I'm thinking about, I think, are like, here, everybody does this. They're all wrong. Here's how you should do it right.
Right.
Like it's tired.
Or that there's 2 billion Gmail users. Here are 8 features that none of them know about. Or here are 11 websites that are so illegal. The thing is that they work and they still work. But I personally will never do them. And this is a personal thing. Like, I won't, it's not for me. And I'll roll my eyes when I see them. But if it fits with your quote unquote brand, just honestly, it works. Like, I'm not saying and I'm not supporting it, but I'm also understanding that I can't just apply my knee-jerk cringe reaction to things to other circumstances. Some people are happy to do that. And if it's consistent with like what they're trying to sell or what they're trying to represent, by all means do that. I would just personally never in a million years do it. So my answer to your question is it works. And if you are comfortable doing it, I'm personally going to judge you. But
it's kind of cringy.
I'm personally going to judge you for about that split second. But if you don't care, I mean, by all means, right? Right. But what I will say is this: is personally, the things that I've written that have gone most viral have actually correlated like pretty highly with how much effort I put into it. I think people like when they read, like people understand is like a good thread takes longer to write than a comparable sized essay. And the reason is because of the restrictions, right? Each tweet,
Right.
obviously 280 characters, and to keep that narrative and each tweet wanting the individual to keep reading the next one, it's actually very difficult from a narrative standpoint. Lists are obviously easy, right? Because each tweet is a list, but a narrative story that keeps going is actually very difficult because you need every tweet to be able to stand on its own. And for a good thread, the reason I say that is because you want people to be quote retweeting each tweet in that thread. That's the reason why lists are so easy, because you can quote retweet anything in that thread without context, right? It's like you don't need the full context of the thread. But I put a lot of effort into, like, when I write a long form thread where, I mean, I put 15 to 20 hours into a thread just because I went down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I might have, and some of them reconverted into essays, right? But the whole point is, like, I put a lot of effort into some of my quote unquote most viral best work. And I think that comes through. And again, it depends on what the purpose is for everyone. I guess for me, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be somebody that people look to for jokes, but also quote unquote good storytelling or stories they hadn't heard of. So it was worthwhile for me to put that effort in. So go back to your point is like, do I coach against it? No, I mean, I don't want to coach against anything. I'd say if they work, they work, but make sure you're willing to take that brand or personal hit, because, there are a lot of people will actually, and maybe even some of your potential customers or people that could buy from you be like, oh, damn, this guy's doing this too. It's like, because it comes out very low effort.
Yeah, that's true. But you've put in the effort, and for those of our audience that isn't super familiar with you, was it safe to say that these high effort threads that you've compiled, that I know that you write for Bloomberg, has that kind of helped guide you in that direction? Can you share a little bit more about that and some of the brand stories that you've covered, and maybe some of the favorites that you've had over the last year or so?
I think writing in this manner was, it was pre Bloomberg or pre any publication I've written for. It was actually, I was contacted by Bloomberg and the editor because of my writing on Twitter and my newsletter. So I would say that superseded it. And I was very happy that kind of the less serious, but the combination of kind of entertainment and education was able to be transferred over to Bloomberg. I wrote a couple last year that I really enjoyed. Probably one, I know I sent it to Adam and we talked about it, was about Bloomberg. About LinkedIn. And we joke about LinkedIn all the time, but it's actually it's a pretty good platform to use for customer, to build actually a content moat, or if you wanted to build the equivalent of what I'm doing on Twitter or what you guys have done. It's because there's a huge content deficit on LinkedIn. We actually break down the numbers, and I wrote this for Bloomberg in fall. It's like, so LinkedIn's about 600 to 700 million users. It's not daily active the way Twitter is. Twitter is much more addictive than LinkedIn for people that are truly addicted, but we're talking about 3 times the base, and very, in terms of content, just a fraction of the content that Twitter is, right? So huge content deficit on LinkedIn. So what that means effectively is that you can actually shit post on LinkedIn, because a lot of people like
and
Chris
some of our friends do.
Yeah, Chris Backey is one of the best on it, and it's like, and he's in a different position too, right? It's because obviously for a lot of, he's a founder, CEO of his company. He doesn't have to answer to anybody, right?
Exactly.
Whereas like most people are that are LinkedIn, I'm guessing, are associated with an employer, and it kind of limits how much you can ship post and or post anything. But that's why there's a content deficit, because if I'm working at, like, I don't know, I used to work at a big corporate bank in Canada. If I'm posting every day on LinkedIn, they're like, what is this guy doing? Is he like trying to get another job? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, but that's why there's such a huge content deficit. And that's why, if you can be in a position that I am, where I don't care what I post. I mean, I'm not going to post anything that gets me canceled. Hopefully not. But like, if I actually don't care that I'm posting all the time, making these dumb jokes, it's a massive advantage, right? Because there's such a big content deficit. So that was an article I really enjoyed. The broader question you had about the writing style, and like, did kind of writing for Bloomberg or writing here kind of affect it, is like, I've always wanted to meld humor and education. I said from the top is like my initial instinct to do threads is because I'm like, I know this is how people get followers, but I really wanted followers just so I can make dumb memes. So like humor really is my North Star. And maybe it's not for everyone, but I think LinkedIn is an interesting place because of that content deficit, no matter what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, I think you hit on something important, is that humor is like a core tenet of great marketing. Whether if you're marketing a product or an idea, you also like the idea of using humor and entertainment as a vehicle for education. So it's like the sugar that you put in the medicine to give people,
Totally.
whether it's buy index funds and chill, or whether it's, something about, your career advice or something boring, right? Like you're making it more palatable for people, I think is a good tenet of just marketing in general.
Well, I think 100%. It's not shocking that good and memorable advertisements are funny, right? It's like it's one of the key human normal reactions. The thing that I add to your point, Adam, and you do bring up a good point, and it's super salient now because of generative AI, is you're like leaning into what makes you different and leaning into humor, which is a truly human thing, is something that people are going to have to start doing, because generative AI has got the boring stuff covered, right? And not to say that ChatGPT is 100% correct, but like if you want 80% just like dry, here's XYZ, you're out of a job, right? And that's why you got to lean into these personal things and the things that make you different and things that get reactions out of people that an AI typically wouldn't be able to. And humor is probably the main one.
100%. And so I think this leads into this is an advertising podcast. We're talking to a lot of advertisers. You're a fan of great advertising. You've had so many threads of how some of the quintessential companies in America built themselves on things that we remember, whether it's, the Coca-Cola Bears or anything like that. Do you have a favorite, like a favorite thread or favorite story about a brand either doing cool creative or something awesome to break the mold?
Yeah. I wrote about it. We'll laugh about it. I wrote it last week. It was about Absolute's vodka campaign. You guys remember that, right?
Yeah.
So longest running print ad campaign ever. I'm sure every listener here has seen one of their ads. It's literally just a silhouette of the Absolute vodka bottle. And it's the word Absolute and then whatever they're trying to represent as a visual, right? So they'll say like Absolute Los Angeles, and it'll just be a pool in LA in the shape of the bottle. Or they'll say Absolute Absolute Warhol. Andy Warhol did a collaboration with them, and it's the bottle and the painted by Andy Warhol. And I mean, the why I love that campaign is there's so much of this instinct to literally reinvent the wheel and like, oh, we got to be so original. We have to do something that's never been seen before. And what I appreciate about the Absolute campaign is they did 1,500 of these ads over 25 years, longest running print ad campaign ever. And they just did the same thing over and over. And just repetition. What is the marketing rule 7? That people won't make a buying decision until they've seen a brand 7 times. Is that right?
I think Google did a study and it was like 10.4 now. It's even higher.
Oh, it's higher. Okay. Yeah. Because there's so much. The attention game is just so savage now, right? So call it 10 times. So there's this instinct where people are like, oh, we have to do something brand new. Everything's been seen before. The one thing I say is that don't assume that everything's been seen before. And I make this mistake a lot because I'm fortunate for have been able to live the life I want to live, which is I read and write a lot. And the reality is that like a lot of like people listen to my podcast, read my newsletter, or read my tweets, they actually have real jobs, right? It's like, and I say real jobs not to say that I'm not doing real work. Like they have jobs where they can't just be on the internet all day, right? Yeah, right. So. Exactly. We're throwing the quotes up because like I still, when my parents ask me what I do for a living, I still can't even really explain to them what's going on. But most people have kind of these other responsibilities. So I can't be in the mindset where everybody's read everything I've read that day. Right. And I think the same thing applies to these ideas of these ad campaigns that repeat and repeat and repeat. Just don't assume that people have already seen something or your exposure to it is representative of what they've seen. And the beauty about the Absolute campaign was, as we said, the rule of 10 now, I guess. But it's also repetition is such a powerful tool, and I think it's underrated because people have this sense of like, oh, this person's repeating themselves, or they'll get a comment on socials like, hey, I just saw this, like, didn't you post this like last week? It's like that person's not representative of like, oh, I'll give you an example. So just call my followers that are apparently I have 580,000 followers on Twitter. I don't know how many are bots, right? Let's just assume that half of them are bots or whatever. But every time I tweet, I'm assuming that less than 10% of that network will see it. And that's particularly true now with what's happening with the algorithm. So if I repost something like in 3 months, I have more followers in 3 months. And then the fact that only 10% saw the first time is like, now we're down like 5% saw it the first time, right? So not only am I repeating something, only 5% of the people that saw it first time are even seeing it the second time. So goes back to your original questions, like why do I like the ad campaign? I think repetition is kind of underrated, and people feel like, you kind of feel icky a bit if you're repeating yourself. But the reality is that it's only because you know how many times you've done it. No one else knows.
Yeah.
How do you think about repetition across like other channels, right? So like you post something to Twitter, like kind of what is your playbook there? Would you
Same
say?
deal. Just repeat. I mean, you guys do help with out of home stuff, right? It's the same idea. What's the entire point of out of home? It's just a reminder. It's like, we're driving down the street,
reach and frequency.
Yeah, that's it, right? So
And for out of home,
I just want to add one more thing, Adam. The last thing I'll say about this is the number one thing I think I would say. Nobody fucking cares about you. It's like, this is a reality. Nobody cares, right? It's like, even if somebody saw me tweet the same thing for like the 10th time, they're going to think about it for 1 second and be like, oh, there goes Trung again. And they'll never think about it again. I mean, that's it. That's the worst case scenario. And I don't care if that person feels that way. So nobody should care. I think that's a lesson. Just repetition, and don't feel about the downside of like, I'm going to care or this person's going to care. Nobody cares. That's
I think I agree with all of that. And one of the benefits of, I think, like when you were on, any of your appearances on CNBC or TV or an out-of-home ad, I think all of the like the sort of legacy media formats help you appear a little bit more larger than life, and we still place like this added emphasis on them. I think like anything in the real world, like even you giving a talk at a conference, like those clips still they add a different bit of weight than us being on a podcast. I honestly think that's why like Joe Rogan, who has a number one podcast, is smart by having the Joe Rogan experience behind him. And I think like, I'm not a professional podcaster, but if I was going to, I would actually like have like a physical world.
You know who nails your exact point? Sagar and Crystal from Breaking Points, the YouTube show.
Yeah.
So Sagar and Jetty and Crystal Ball. So they said this. He left, I think either Political or The Hill. She left MSNBC, and he said that the reason he wears a suit, even though he does independent media, is because when that clip of him gets shared around between like families and WhatsApp group chat to people that don't know him, he wants that instant veneer of respectability or kind of like, oh, this is a serious matter. Whereas like if I was telling that news, like, they touch on very serious topics. And people ask him, like, why don't you look like the rest of these YouTubers? Like really dressed down and very informal. It's because it's like the topic matter I'm trying to do is quite serious. And like, I'm trying to take this audience away from like Fox, CNN, CNBC. And if I'm doing that, I have to kind of like play the part a bit, right? And I think it goes to your point is like being a quote unquote media personality, even though I've got like zero direct tangible value from going CNBC, it plays into this part. It kind of gives this more weight, as you said.
Yeah, and I think that Lex Friedman does a great job of that as well.
Oh yeah, he wears a suit, exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny because we all look up to, tech billionaires that are wearing Lululemon, and it's like such a vibe. But I think like we're a little bit, we need to not be so removed from the fact that like your aesthetic and what you wear does matter. Chris,
we're such in a little bubble, right? We're in a tiny bubble. Tech Twitter is such a bubble. Like 90% of people have 99% of my close friends don't know what's going on in Twitter. I'll tell them a story about a Twitter story to be like, Trung, what are you talking about, right? They have no idea what's going on. It goes back to the point of like, don't like, I make the mistake of assuming people have my context. And I just wanted to add to your point, Adam, like the reality is that like this idea of living this tech Twitter, the Lululemon, shout out to Vancouver company, is that aesthetic is 99% of America. Like that's just not their thing, or 90% of North America.
You know what's so interesting is, so we say this, and then at the same time, and this always breaks my brain a little bit, is when traditional media take a small thing in social and blow it up to be like a firestorm of polarization. And it's like 3 people with 20 followers said something, and now it's people are saying. So it kind of goes both ways, where it's like they're using these examples for attention, and then people in social are using their 30-second clip in traditional media for attention. So it's almost become like this really postmodern like landscape.
It's
where
reflexive, right? It's like the whole George Soros things is like these things are. I think I heard of I can't remember. It actually might have been Rogan and Sagar, because Sagar was just on the Rogan show talking about this phenomenon. It's like you read these Times articles where they're like, oh, social media is blowing up. But it's like you said, it's literally like a person with 3 followers, probably some like PSYOP account, like being outraged, right? And like they'll say it, but then like people will take that Times headline, like, oh, look at the Times, like they're misrepresenting this story again. And it is very reflexive like that.
Chris, should we ask strong questions about like the balloon, or should we stick to our initial?
I mean,
we're not
I'm
talking,
tempted.
We're not talking about the balloon, boys. We're
not talking about the balloon. All right.
I mean, we could go transition it to TikTok. No, just kidding. I know you just did a thing about that.
I'm happy to talk about TikTok. Well, it's probably not the right platform for it, but and you guys know this. You're in the game. It is a beast, right? It is an absolute customer acquisition beast if you do it well. I just think the whole thing should be banned. So that's it.
I still, if I had to place my chips on one, I would still put it on YouTube over TikTok for like a laundry list.
Oh, I would. I think too. The monetization engine is just unmatched, right? But it's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but I think Microsoft's going to buy on TikTok, and Satya Nadella is literally just going to be the greatest CEO ever.
Wow,
I can see that.
Bold call.
I mean, well, who else can do it, right? Who else can afford 30 to 50 bill? It's literally Oracle. I mean, the original deal with Trump was Oracle and Walmart, right?
Right.
Microsoft was in early bidding. You literally have like 5 companies that can do it. It's not a difficult call. Microsoft obviously has a little bit of antitrust heat right now with Activision, but I think that deal's going to go through. But they're the only ones that can pull it. Like, Facebook would never be able to buy TikTok. Google would never be able to buy it. Microsoft's going to buy TikTok, man. It's going to be hilarious.
All right, Chris, do you want to keep going through?
Yeah. So for we were talking about how politics and the macro situation has been kind of influencing, a lot of people's marketing campaigns, what they're talking about. What do you think folks actually need to know about, what's going on in the world and how it's going to affect, maybe their messaging to the world, or, is it a time to be a little bit more serious, or is it a time to be a little bit more funny?
That's a great question. I think online, specifically on Twitter, I think the humor just never ends, right? It's like,
right.
I saw this tweet that perfectly captured it. Cardi, on the day that the Queen died, Cardi B wrote this tweet. He's like, I can't believe y'all doing these tweets, but I can't stop laughing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, or something to the effect of, I'm going to hell for laughing. Like, right. you know what I mean? It's like, I remember when that happened, and I'm Canadian. It's like, it was a big deal for a lot of people that I know. And obviously, the Queen still represents Canada. But I remember going on Twitter. I'm like, oh, like literally just scrolling it every tweet. I was just like this. I was like, oh. I'm like, oh, that one's bad. And it was just an instinct of, I think, on that platform, very much different than obviously like a LinkedIn or IG. I mean, it's specific to every platform, right? It's like, what is the kind of the personality of that platform? I think IG would be a lot less receptive to just shit posting about that type of story. I may be wrong. But yeah, I think it's all dependent. Twitter specifically, I think people are more than happy to use humor as a way to cope. I mean, if you are on crypto Twitter over the past year, all you saw were jokes, as everyone literally just got completely wiped. And so I think that would be the frame I'd use. Jokes are still worthwhile and usable. I'm not gonna say anything about like, hey, do I think it's a recession or is it bad? Just my personal anecdote based on people I deal with and companies I deal with is like, yeah, it's. I mean, everything we've seen with tech, the 200,000 layoffs in the past 3 to 6 months, it's bad, and it's bad, and maybe a lot worse for tech than it is for the rest of the economy. Ben Thompson from Techcree actually wrote about it today. He's like, yeah, I think if you actually look at it, the economy is recovering. We got 500,000 new jobs. blowing out the estimates. I think last week was supposed to be 100,000 new jobs. It came out 500, the print. Not to say that that's speaking to the entirety of the economy, but it's tough to have a recession when you're adding way more jobs than you expected, right? But tech is, I think, quite specific. I think are way ahead of its skis. And if a lot of your advertisers and marketers are dealing with tech, I think the pain will continue through this year because these 200,000 firings, the ripple effect of that is like these people not spending money anymore, and those startups not buying other SaaS tools, or even AWS is slowing down more than Azure, right? Because AWS caters to startups. So you're not going to see that ripple effect until probably through the rest of this year. So yeah, I think there's going to be pain. I don't think it's done for tech specifically, but humor has been very useful.
Yeah, and there's one thing that Adam, I think, mentioned earlier last week on Twitter where he was like, it's exceptionally shitty to be, dogging on people that are going through this right now. And Adam, maybe
I agree with you at 100%. The one thing I think, actually, Adam, was it you that posted this? When people were making fun of the Google employees, and look, I totally get the idea of overpaid Silicon Valley employees. I get it. I work for a startup that was well funded on the East Coast that had a similar vibe. But getting fired is fucking awful. It's one of the worst things that can happen to people psychologically. And it took every bone in my body not to try to make a meme about it. And I somehow didn't, because all I saw were really, again, it was like the same thing. You're just shaking your head looking at these things. Like, you can laugh, but like, have a sensitivity. It's like, it's not cool. Even if people were extremely quote unquote overpaid, there's this psychological damage that everybody should be sympathetic to.
Yeah, you don't know anyone's situation, whether they're getting divorced, they have a lawsuit against them, their
how many kids they got, exactly.
You can't make those assumptions. What it's striking to me how it is nearly always finance bros that are shitting on tech bros, because it's almost I had to put in however many years and work hard, so everyone else should, which is a weird mindset. It's very boomer-esque. I had to.
It's the investment banking mindset, right? I worked 100 hours. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this 10x engineer works 1 hour. He's delivering value to a billion users, right? It's like, he's worth it.
It's not the same sector, and they pattern match that everything is, investment banking. You should have to spend weekends of your life working in spreadsheets to move up, and you're otherwise, if you didn't grind enough, you're not worthy. And it's pretty mid to think like that.
I agree with you. It's like, so to go back, when I say use humor, specifically myself, is if I do use humor, it's to punch up or inanimate objects like corporations, right? There was a period where I actually got called out. I hit like 400,000 followers. I think I made a joke about an individual on LinkedIn. You remember who it was? It was the crying CEO on LinkedIn. And it was a cheap shot. Even though he kind of brought it on himself, I'm like, I don't need to dump on this guy. And somebody messaged me. I felt bad. It's like, Trung, you've gone to a point where, like, I think enough people follow you, and like, you can put enough attention onto something that it might not be like, you don't need to do this, right? It's like, this is not worth it. And I agreed with him, because it's like, it felt like punching down, not just punching down even. It's like, what I'm saying is, I'm sticking to corporations and I'm punching up at max, right? It's like, people that, you know what I mean? Like, some people can take it.
Yeah.
Like, the Drakes of the world can take a little meme or here or there, right? It's like, these guys are on such different levels. But I think you know what I mean.
It's really interesting, because I think people like yourself that are influencers in the business world, like, they understand, the time it's appropriate to say something and not. I think for the most part, brand marketers know when it's appropriate to make a meme or not. But I think there's going to be infinite more examples forever into the future where you get someone who doesn't know where it's appropriate. And I think the challenge for a lot of people is, for them, it feels like that line is not only different for everyone, but then it's also moving for everyone. So I think it's a really hard challenge, not just online and on Twitter, not just in billboards, not just in TV. I think everywhere, of knowing what you can do and where you can go. I think that's both exciting as a creative person, if you're like an advertising creative, like, what can we get away with and what's fun and interesting? But now also, it's really scary, because could my brand be canceled? Could my job be canceled? And so I think one of the ways to stay ahead of that is to follow the culture, but at the, it's also kind of an impossible task and challenge.
No, you're right. Well, so I'd say this. I know Don from Know Your Meme. He's the editor. They have actually a B2B product on like for brand safety around memes. Like I've checked it out. It's like something worth exploring. So Know Your Meme Insights, I believe it's called. The other thing I'd say is, to your point, Adam, it's tough to stay on top, but I think there's a heuristic you can use. It's kind of to the point I'm saying. If you actually look at some of the quote unquote like best performing memes I've made, they're about corporations. They're about fictional characters in TV shows. They're about ideas. They're not about individuals. And it took kind of a couple of people messaging me and being like, Trung, that was pretty shitty. Like, I think this individual, like, it's quite targeted what you're doing, and you don't even know this person. I'm like, you're right. Corporations are completely fair play to me. Fictional television shows, movies, completely fair play to me. And that's kind of where I've moved with my quote unquote memeing, or like the top 100 richest people. They're always fair play. Nothing too mean though, right? No, honestly, it's like you said, Adam, you just don't know. You don't know what these people are going through. So like when I do take shots, or if I quote unquote take shots, they're more of the line of like making fun of maybe a product that this person released or a very specific thing they said. But I think that heuristic of going after inanimate objects is a good one.
Chris, I also think if you're a brand marketer and you're making ad creative and you can't use Don Draper or like one of these characters, I still think if you were to follow someone like Trung and look how he uses archetypes, you could come up with your own creative based on what he's doing with memes, just with like your own characters and your own narrative. And it's like you could almost like steal from what like shit posters online are doing and have it be really sticky and not have to like focus group anything. You could just take things that are popular and borrow them.
Absolutely. And this is one thing that I kind of wanted to circle back to. It's like, earlier you said, Trung, like, I have a folder. I know I got some things I could drop 500 likes right off the bat. I got these bangers. Let's unpack that folder of yours. I was listening to Not Investment Advice over the weekend. It's becoming one of my top podcasts to listen to.
I appreciate that.
And one of the things that you said is like it was you use this term curated information flow, which is what I imagine is like gathering the inputs for the work that you put out, right? And so, can you kind of walk us through how you think about that and how do they fit into like the workflow? Because like our audience obviously is marketers, advertisers. They have their hands on the keyboard. I would like some of our podcasts to cover like some process workflow stuff. So like, how do you think about that folder of yours? How do you gather information? What can our audience learn from you in that regard?
So the actual gathering is extremely sloppy and probably sounds, I'm sure a lot of people will do this. It's literally just Google Docs and Apple Notes with just endless bullet points, right? Every time there's a dumb idea, I'm bullet pointing it. And I'm sure you guys are doing this too, where you email yourself. Like I have like this 85 long email thread that I just started a week ago. I'm like, oh, this might be the best way because it's always at the top. I don't use Roam. I don't use Evernote. I've tried all that stuff. Doesn't work for me. If it works for you, amazing. But it just never worked for me. But to your point, the information flow it's nothing surprising, right? I cover what I need to do. So I have the Wall Street Journal app on my phone, Financial Times, New York Times, Bloomberg, subscribe to probably 30 newsletters. And every morning, that's it. I just sort of cycle through it. And I say this knowing that being on top of the news is actually not the best use of my time for long form writing, because the newsy stuff is actually not super effective. I'd be better off just reading books. But because I like to fire off some dope memes, that's the reason I do it. But yeah, I think have that routine where you're kind of going through your sources. I'm sure the marketers and advertisers have their marketing newsletters or advertising newsletters. They're reading Ad Age every morning. And but have a folder. Just have something where you're dumping ideas. And I don't know how best to do it top of mind, but yeah, I apologize if there's not a good process around it. I just know I read and I drop ideas. And it goes back to something I mentioned earlier. It's like, if you have the templates that you've built up for these memes, that's where that kind of connective tissue happens. So if there is something more tactical, is like, do you try to spend like a couple minutes a day if this is
Mhm.
relevant to your job. But looking at Mematic, look at ImageFlip, follow some of the top meme accounts on Instagram and Twitter, and look at what those templates are, because I could tell you. So I have 1 million like tweet, and
Mhm.
it was a template that I sat on for a year. So
Wow, that's
you know what I
impressive.
mean? It's like I
Yeah.
saw it, and like I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna sit on this one when something perfect happens, and it was just the perfect time, right moment, million likes, like insane.
What was that
50
moment?
million impressions. New Year's. It was a New Year's meme. I mean, I'll post it later, but it's like the whole point is I sat on that template, and you guys will know it's like really famous. It's a blinking eye guy, but I'd never seen it in the template they had done. Like you know the gif of the guy that looks at something and just kind of blinks, but like somebody had done it where so it's 3 panels. The first panel is his eyes open, second panel is he blinks, and the third panel is eyes wide open. But they had done it so like each one is kind of telling a different story. It was a 3x2. Anyways, I'm fucking butchering it now. It got 1 million likes. That's all you need to know.
I like what you said though about like personally curating ideas, and I think to your point, it doesn't matter. The tool set doesn't matter. The fact that you are personally curating, whatever.
Oh yeah, like I'm very intentional. Like to your point is like it's very intentional of having those apps on my phone in one folder. I just kind of rip through them.
Mr. Beast is on record of doing the same thing. He just has a long Google Doc with like 1,000 ideas in it, and it's like, for a creative person, like you're either, I think everyone's on the spectrum of either being super creative or wildly organized. And it's like, it's super rare to get people in the middle. It like almost doesn't exist. Like Chris is like in the middle. He's actually organized and creative. And there's like no other Chris's. Like I can't find them. We're all either like weirdly creative or technical. And then tools help, but it almost, if you're just a super creative person, I think if you get that in one place, you're wrangling the sort of chaos of your.
Listen, this has nothing to do with me, but go look at the final picture of Albert Einstein's desk. Like there's a photo online.
It's a
Google
mess. It's chaos.
It's just a fucking disaster, right? And listen, no one here ever is gonna be Albert Einstein, but it's like if this guy could do what he was doing with that, it's like, yeah, you don't need Rome and Evernote to like write your weekly meme newsletter trunk.
Yeah, I worked on Google Analytics, the world's most popular analytics software.
Ooh,
for a
name
long time.
drop, easy, buddy, easy, Adam.
And one of the things, and I still say this to users with AdQuick as well, is there is no easy button in marketing software, analytics software. And it's like people want this easy button for creative process, for anything else. And even with Chat GPT and whatever, like, you know, I've used it to like spin up like a skeleton of an idea, but if I wasn't there to edit it and curate it, it's not interesting. It's like Muzak. It's like, you know, it's not interesting. It's like a stock photo or stock video of going through a city.
Exactly.
It's just generic.
Well, I'll tell you what the generative AI stuff is. It is obviously very impressive, but you kind of get a sense. Like you read it and you're like, oh, you can tell the difference, right? Like you can really tell the difference. And it goes to what we've talked about. Is that's why having your personality in it is such an important piece of the puzzle, because I think people can tell. It's like, look at all this art that came out from like DALL-E and Stability Diffusion and Midjourney. It's cool. It's awesome. But after seeing 1 million of them, I'm like, oh, like cool, right? It's like, doesn't really matter to me anymore. Not to say that you can't make really good stuff. I've seen like people joke about prompt engineering, like writing the correct text to create these images. Some people are incredible. Yeah, you get a sense. You get a sense if you see them.
Is that any different than being a really good Googler and being able to?
No, it's the same. But I think what I say is I think the learning curve for being a good Googler is a lot shorter than being a learning curve for prompt engineering, specifically because of how back and forth the generative models are, right?
Yeah, for Google, all you need is a good Boolean string or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other problem, I think, is also distribution. So great, it can create the infinite, it can create infinite content, but unless you have a trunk behind it to curate and take this infinite, world of things and, condense it to something interesting, it's worthless, right?
Well, it's the Ben Thompson, his various aggregation theory again, right? Is in the world of infinite content, like what wins? It's on the demand side, and who wins on the demand side? People that can curate, so individuals, brands, or services like Google that can offer you discovery or search. So I think, generative AI just makes the trust in the individual that much more important. That's a great point. That's a great point.
So I have a question for you, Trung, because you're super well connected. You're a creative individual. Like any marketing team would be like, they can't hire you because you're not going to be a marketer. But like, how should a marketing team go about actually finding like a new creative director in the internet age? Or for the internet age?
People ask me this a lot, and something I think the places you can find a lot of undiscovered talent, not undiscovered talent, but like you want to see people that can actually operate in the internet is like, again, you got to be super, and are you online? Are you very online? You'll find individuals that have this kind of skill sets, or like the sixth sense that I've talked about, right? Like I know a bunch of like 17-year-olds that are sending fire memes every day, and they're terminally online. Yeah. And you see them tweeting and being on top of the news cycle and having fire memes at a very young age. It probably helps that they don't have any other responsibility. They can be online a lot, right? And those individuals are the ones that you don't want to look at somebody's CV to try to hire them. You got to see the output. And so like when people ask me, I get asked a lot about newsletter writers. I wrote for The Hustle for a year and a half, a business tech newsletter. And people ask me, hey, how do you find like this individual? It's like, you actually know, like, great place, go check Substack. And like, do you find people, it doesn't have to even be a big one. Probably don't even want a big one. You want to see people that are publishing consistently, because the main muscle you need that I haven't even talked about is honestly just consistency. It's boring to say, but if you could show up every single day and do it, that's going to be better than almost anything else. That's just the reality. And ways to do that is like look through people's Twitter feed. This probably sounds archaic, but Jimmy Fallon, when he was hiring writers for the show, he would just go through their entire Twitter feed. That was like the first thing he'd do. It's like, okay, cool. You sent me 5 jokes. Okay, let me see what your output was on Twitter, right? Were you on top of different news stories? Were you actually dropping funny jokes like instantly? So I think if you're trying to find people, you guys wrote it in the chat here, is like terminally online, and you can tell. And consistency. Has somebody published 100 Substacks with 10 subscribers? That tells you a lot about that person, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam. I was going to say, so I'm someone who's terminally online sometimes, but one thing that I've tried to get back into being at an out-of-home advertising company is to get offline more. And a reason is I still think, I only have, people are like, I have like 80,000 followers on Twitter and however many Substack creators. People are like, how do you have that? And I'm like, it's not from posting online. It's actually from a decade of being on the speaker circuit and like going to an event, and I would get 500 new actual human, not bot followers. And so I still think, I actually worry sometimes about the fully terminally online people, because that time offline ultimately gets you to a creative space. You can do good things online. So we have to get the kids in the real world too. Fair
enough. 100%. I guess my only rebuttal to that would be is it's a lot harder to tell if somebody is consistent by being like, they're like, oh, hey, man, I write every day in my notebook. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what, you're going to send me pictures of your notebook, buddy? So, you know what I mean? It's like, I agree with you that having offline ability is important and having kind of the sense of it. But the tools are already there. It's just like, can this person just do the job? You can tell instantly, right? It's like,
totally.
If this person has 100 Substacks and like 0 subscribers, this motherfucker cares and he's going to get the job done because he's already publishing and nobody reads it.
So in terms, we talked a little bit about how to find talent. Who are some of like your favorite people online that if I'm a marketer or advertiser, like I can follow, that are going to like break the mold for me creatively, help me think differently, other than the people on your podcast who, we all already follow, right?
I got to double down, my boy. I'm going to say Jack. I will say this, and I'm going to say this for the reasons that we've talked about and about repetition. If you got the best one, it's pointy in the sense of like his skill set. And because the thing with Jack is he literally preaches everything he posts, right? Is like the aesthetic of, so people that don't know Jack Butcher, he does visualized value. It's a kind of artistic, visual communication, education, consultancy, the whole 9. And he does you've probably seen his graphics. They're black background, white really simplified white lines. And a lot of people have tried to copy the aesthetic, which is fine, right? Like a great artist, the whole great artist copy steal thing. But the thing about Jack is he's so consistent about it. And I've done a podcast with him for 2 years with our buddy Bilal. It's like he actually really truly believes these things that he puts out. And you see, I don't know if you guys are aware, but he has like the top NFT right now in the world, and it's doing the type
the
of
checks
volume.
one.
Yeah, and like Beeple just did a riff on it. Like that's what, like it's literally, it's not like, oh, randomly at the bottom of the bear market you have the top NFT project. It's like the buzz on this thing is insane, and like Budweiser riffed on it, and they did a whole like a mini ad campaign on Twitter around it, and it's like, and it's just the aesthetic that he's been working on for years. This is not overnight. And the reason I go to Jack is like his idea is like he's internet first. He uses all the tools of the internet. Like he built his entire brand off Twitter and Instagram. The repetition and simplifying is what made this, for example, this NFT project take off. It was just an extension of what he already does. He writes too a lot about his approach. So yeah, I'm going to double down, Jack. I know you said don't hit somebody up on your podcast, but I think there's a lot to learn from him. And he's
no, it's fine. I like Jack too.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead,
which
Chris.
way do you want to go? Which way do you want to go, Adam? I was thinking we can go kind of. We already covered we covered the limitations of shipping bangers with generative AI. Obviously, you got to add the human component to it. But where it can help, and I think this is going to be a great segue into Bearly, Trung. It's like where it can help is in the sourcing and the research and understanding what a piece of content's about. And we'd love to kind of learn about, how Bearly came about. Maybe give us a little scoop on what it is and what you've been building.
Sure. I'll do a quick
I don't know how long you've been building it, but go for it.
Quite short. It's about three months. Bearly.ai, BEARLY.ai. That's a pun. It's a really dumb pun.
Yeah.
But I'm a dad, so I'm allowed to do it. It's a AI-powered research app. It helps you with reading, instant summaries on any articles, PDFs, long reads, writing. So a lot of tools you've probably seen with ChatGPT. But I'll tell you the differentiation and how we're kind of positioning ourselves versus ChatGPT in a second. We also do image generation. I'll tell you the funny thing with image generation is we didn't think it'd be a big thing, but we got asked by so many users for it. It's because like one of the main ones right now is Midjourney, right? It's a Discord. You have to sign up to Discord and go to a Discord server. Do you think a 45 or 50-year-old is going to sign up to a Discord server? It's never happening.
Or a 35-year-old?
Yeah, no, seriously. No, I'm actually serious. It's like, you're right, Chris. It took me I basically started using Midjourney just to check it out a week ago. And it's been around for months, right? And we were on Tech Twitter. I saw it every single day. It just never bothered me. I'm like, I can't deal with another app.
So I'm still waiting for a friend to show me how to do it. One of my friends out here in Seattle, she's fantastic at it.
Right? This is what I mean, those, Chris. Like, so we found with so our entire insight and the point about Bearly.ai was this. So a lot of people had been like, oh, cool. Like you just did like a UX on top of OpenAI's like language models. They call it a GUI. You just put a GUI on OpenAI. Like that's kind of the diss that people like to say. But I mean, that's the entire point. Like OpenAI, even with ChatGPT, they're not a consumer-facing company. They're research first. Like this is their entire job is to get to artificial general intelligence. Like that is the purpose of that organization. ChatGPT was a massive consumer success that they didn't expect to happen. The reason they released it was they saw there's a lot of competitors in the space, right? And they're like we need the mind share. And it worked out brilliantly. They had 100 million users in 2 months, right? That was the headline. So the fastest ever to 100 million. But ChatGPT, and everybody here has seen it, everybody that's listening has seen it, is like, it's a little bit like Excel in the sense of like, if you have to be good at ChatGPT, like, can you guys do macros in Excel? Like I can, right?
I can.
Like I'm not a power Excel user.
I wasn't always a marketer, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, to be good at ChatGPT, like legitimately good, and to justify the $20 a month, like you got to be that level. Like people that can really interact with the language model to get like when you're asking it for code ideas or like a front end code for HTML, like you actually have to kind of be good and like probe it, right? I'm not that. What I wanted was a tool, and it's another tab. I wanted something that I know what my workflow is. I work in Google Docs. I'll work in Microsoft Word. I'll work in Substack email editor. I'll work in Sail Through, the email editor, and my own personal Gmail. That's 5 places where I have text. I don't want another tab open. I want to use AI whenever I need to use it. So like Bearly.ai it's a keyboard shortcut for the app. It's like you hit Command-Shift-P and it just pops up whenever you need it. It's ubiquitous and there just whenever you need it. And that might not be for everyone. Maybe some people like to sit and chat GPT and like master it. Clearly 100 million people have tried it, right? But we found that there's been a pretty large ask and use case for what we're providing, which is this keyboard shortcut with access to all these tools, reading, writing, image generation. We also have a Chrome plugin for reading, instant summaries, and a web dashboard because you got to have it. But I think when you look at the landscape of these AI tools, the actual language model itself is going to be commoditized. Like Google's language model is better than OpenAI's by a lot of accounts. They just haven't released it for regulatory and business reasons. They're going to have to do it. So the language model itself, they're all going to converge to approximately the same quality. So if you think about those language models as effectively the cloud, the whole point is that you want to build better UX and have good distribution on top of it. So like we're competing with distribution and UX. And I know for a fact that there's thousands of people in the world that want to use it the way that I want to use an AI tool like this. And I know that because we have many, many, many users, right? And as a business, I only need 5,000 paying customers to have a 7-figure business. So that's how I think about it. I'm not trying to build the next Google. Like there's a very powerful, you know what I mean? It's like there's this tool that's made widely available. I found a use case for myself. And now my job is to find the 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people that want to do that exact use case.
That's
awesome. I was poking around in there over the weekend, and I love the breadth of use cases. Primarily, I think there was a fun one on your website that you had a screenshot of, but you have the Chrome plugin. And then you go to an Amazon like book page, and I think it was like Nicholas Nassim Taleb or Black Swan, and then you just hit the button, and then it just spits out the summary, and then he does the takeaways and the counter arguments, and then it's like the takeaway is like this guy's an egomaniac, and he's it's tough to digest.
No, right? You read. Well, like the whole
It-
point is like. No, Chris, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'll explain like our thinking around it. And I think you nailed it, right? It's just the idea, and that one's probably more playful. But I know, like, if you're a product marketer, this is a very useful tool because what it does is it literally takes the 50 most helpful comments on any Amazon product, and we just take the most common comments, right? Because like people do that manually. And but yeah, that idea is to kind of, I mean, you know that's really funny that the top comments were like,
I mean, there's thought-provoking ideas in the book, but there's like, well, this guy's a little much. But I just thought that was special because if I knew that if I read through all those reviews, that would be my takeaway. So just having it in one click was pretty cool.
This isn't related to the product exactly, but I think you talking about how you created this awesome use case for yourself. We only need a business of 5,000 people is kind of the antithesis of the Silicon Valley. We need hundreds of thousands of paying business users, and I think there's like a great way of thinking of starting a SaaS business like that. It doesn't have to be for everyone. And, maybe the future is people creating these really niche tools where it's like super interesting if you're a Substack writer or a graphic designer or, you're a contractor or something. And it doesn't have to be this big, horizontal thing for everyone.
Well, it's like you asked me earlier, is like, what's the point of getting all this attention? And like, I've been approached to advertise XYZ or do ABC. And honestly, like, I mean, have I taken on some ads that looking back, like maybe I shouldn't have? It's none of this crypto like scam stuff. Don't worry. But like, when I say I shouldn't have it, it's in the sense of like, I don't actually use that product is what I mean. Right. It's like, so I shill Bearly pretty aggressively, but it's like, it's always in the flow. Like if you read some of the ones, like just go to my profile and type in like Bearly and search on my name. It's all jokes. It's like, we're making fun of how like I'll show a chart of like going downwards. I'm like, guys, my first SaaS company is this good? And like, it's just like a downward chart, right? It's just jokes. And it's just like, but there's a way, again, top of funnel, try to get some people into it. Actually, I don't know if I've done that one. I might post that one tomorrow.
I think you also are just such a genuine and like kind human that along with the jokes, you like sharing
I appreciate that, bro.
your newsletter or your product. It's like, how would I not want to check this out? right? It's like, I want to support what Trung is doing. It's like a no-brainer.
Well, dude, I mean, we talk. I know we talk a lot, like in the DMs about it, but you get a sense of, and I do mean this, like what you get online is almost exactly what you get in person. It just that is who I am, and not to be one of these cornies, like, oh, I'm authentic guys, but just like, I don't know, why would I waste my time? Like, I don't have enough cycles in my head to be another person. I gotta deal with my fucking kid. It's like I can't have this other personality because I literally don't have the bandwidth, right? It's like I have to be the same person, or too cognitively difficult to be to handle all these different things I'm trying to do. But yeah, man, I think hopefully it comes across. It sounds like, at least for Adam, he gets it. Chris may or may not get it. I think it's early, but I think you're getting the sense of it. But no, man, that's yeah, I think that's a good pin on this convo, in the sense of, like, enjoy myself on the internet. And if you want to come along for the ride, awesome. If not, I totally get it. I'm not for everyone.
Awesome. This was such a great conversation, Trung. And, you're one of my personal favorite people online. I consider you a friend. I'm excited to have a coffee one day. I know we've been internet friends for probably forever, but it's been so fun to talk. Is there anything else that you want to promote and share to our listeners? I think we've promoted your startup, your podcast. What else do we need to share?
Just my Substack is trungfan.substack. It's called Satpost, SATPOST. I should probably change it, but the original reason I made it is because there's a portmanteau of shit posts on Saturday. So every Saturday morning, people know they get it, but I think I overthought it. Yeah, that's it. I've done my Showville. I know you guys gave me that file. We're like, I came on. So behind the scenes, people, I just rolled into the recording with these guys. I'm like, guys, can I shill today? And they're like, yeah, you can shill.
We're marketers. We appreciate people that believe in their product and want to share it. Because frankly, especially if you're a voice online, if you were to share something, like you mentioned crypto, if you were to like Logan Paul shared like a bullshit NFT, and now the whole internet is attacking him. So it's like, you wouldn't, like, why would you spend however many years building 500,000 followers, being a writer at Bloomberg, and I'm going to torch it all for something dumb? Like, what, like, that guy, someone needs to advise him, like, how the world actually works, because it's stupid, right?
Well, Adam, actually, the last thing I will say is this, is my closing thought is, and you guys, I know you will appreciate this, you're in the business of it, is literally no one else will do it for you, right? If you're an individual, or you're starting a new startup, or you're a 2-person team, literally no one else will shill as hard, or should shill as hard as you. And I'll give you the best example. I remember when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, Leo, Brad Pitt, 2 of the biggest stars in the world. And I was randomly on YouTube, and I was fed like a Malaysian Hollywood channel. Brad Pitt is talking to a Malaysian, like 5th tier Hollywood channel to shill his movie he made with Leonardo DiCaprio and Quentin Tarantino. 3 of the most famous people in the world, definitely 2 of the most famous people in the world, and they still have to shillville. So like, I'm like, if these guys have to shill, I'm going to be shilling nonstop.
Wow, that's an awesome story, actually.
But you know what I mean? It's like, you've probably seen it. Like James Cameron, for Avatar 2, this guy's like a billionaire, and he's the most famous director in the world. He's on like 5th-rate like Hollywood shows, and he to shill Avatar 2.
I actually appreciate that they, and also Elon, will go on a random punter's YouTube channel to chill or even just talk, because he's helping that person get attention, and he doesn't have to do that. And yeah, he's shilling, but I actually appreciate that they go on like these sort of unknown channels. It's like,
right.
You could probably ask them on your podcast, and like they might say yes, right? It's like, what, like you shoot your shot, right?
100%. And the preamble to shooting your shot is just, no one else will do it for you. That's it, right?
Love it. Chris, do you want to take us home?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end. But again, I'd like to conclude episode 2 of the Madvertising Podcast. I'd like to thank our guest, Trung Phan. Give him a follow. Trung T Phan. That's TRUNGTPHAN on Twitter. Next week, I think next week, Adam, we'll be talking brand safety with the co-founder of Check My Ads, Nandini Jami, and she's building a company that's becoming ad tech's industry watchdog. So stay tuned. It's going to be more exciting stuff. But if you like what you hear, I've been studying how to become a podcast person.
You should tell her to use Bearly.ai if she needs summary tools.
Yeah, we were talking about.
I'll be plugging you from here on out. Don't you worry. But if you like what you hear, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple. We're coming soon, and then tell your friends. Thank you all.
Thanks,
and
bro.
Thank you,
for
guys.
listening.